Okay. I don't know how to intro this thing.
You don't have to intro. Just start talking.
Okay. Do we want to talk about, like, we had brought up the Gen Alpha slang. Do we really want to talk about that, or wait till a different episode for Lane?
You know, doesn't matter how many times we bring it up. We never know if he's ever going to want to join. So
We can later if we want. I had brought up thinking about you growing up, in
Me?
Ohio.
growing up,
Yeah, you doing wrestling and all that stuff, and then going to college, and me and Mom coming back to Nashville, or not coming back, but going to Nashville.
what about all of it?
Just the life story. I don't know.
What do you want to know?
Well, if you were born in Ohio, what were your interests when you were younger? Because I know it was in video games, because you didn't really have that.
Yeah, it was. The Atari came out when I was 10, 12. Probably 12. Nintendo came out when I was 14. We played Tetris at 16.
The Donkey Kong and Mario Kart? Or was that
Donkey
late?
Kong was in the arcade. We would go to arcades all the time.
Uh-huh.
I played that all the time in the arcade, yes. And Mario Kart was part of Nintendo. That didn't come out till 92. So that's the year I graduated high school.
Okay.
So yes.
But your hobbies growing up, what were those?
Mostly it was messing with my computer all the time because I was always building. And I would for example, if there was something weird going on with my stereo, I would take it apart, fix it, and put it back together. There was always a missing screw. Always a missing screw. Every single time. Mm-hmm. Grandma and Grandpa would get mad at me because I always break stuff. But I was always tinkering.
That reminds me of a Young Sheldon episode when he was recreating the microwave and he broke it. Can you turn down my headphones a bit, FYI?
Yep. Is that better?
Yeah.
Hobbies. Not really a hobbyer.
Did you do art in your free time, or whenever you were out of school, did you go to the arcade much? Was that your most?
Well, we didn't have an arcade in our town, so arcades were more like when we went to the mall and there was an arcade at the mall or something like that, or when I went on my back when I was in high school. Well, from seventh, maybe sixth. I've been from sixth grade all the way till college. Every year I'd go to a wrestling camp or two. I think I did start right before junior high. I went to a camp the year before, I think. And it was at this university in Pennsylvania called Clarion, and they had a pole position racing game, which you've seen me play at the game terminal. And that was my favorite game for a very long time. And so every time I went to Clarion, every time we had time off from practice, I would be there playing that game. And this guy taught me how to play it and it was all cool. I wanted to be like him. I thought he was awesome. He was probably 21. He was bad influence on me, but I enjoyed it all the time. So that was more of my memories of playing in arcades. But Galaga, I was a huge Galaga fan. I mean, arcades are kind of an addiction for me. It's kind of a dangerous place to take me because it's hard to get me out of there.
So you were kind of like Lane growing up with video games 24/7. Because I know Mom was a smarter
but I
child.
did a lot more on my computer. I did more computer programming than games. We played a lot of games too. But the thing is like for example, a computer game when I was your age would be reading the game and deciding what to do. There was no graphics. So there was this game, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and there was Oregon Trail. What? Oh yeah, the poster Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy Rest. Right. That starts with a game to me and a book. But I had trouble with the game because I didn't understand it. It was complicated because I couldn't figure out what to do in a room if I couldn't see it. You had to read and visualize and turn around and stuff like that. So video games were different, but I did a lot of programming where I created Like, for example, if I wanted to make a turtle on the screen, I'd have to program to make the lines go to the shape of a turtle. And I'd have to program each and every little moment that it would move to make that line. And that was a lot of fun to me. I thought that was really cool that we could take a computer and do stuff like that because we didn't have graphics yet. So I felt like I was making graphics. Like I made my first animations where you make a couple pictures, make it move a little bit. Those were things that we were doing back then because there wasn't anything as graphics yet. So it was pretty cool. But I did mostly, and then the internet wasn't there yet, but we had modems. So we had the ability to plug our phone into the computer. And while I was in high school, we could plug the phone into our computer and we could call each other through our computers. And so we had what was called like a bulletin board. You know, instead of like social media today, we had bulletin boards where you could go into these chat rooms and you can chat with random people or you can make a private chat for your friends. But we didn't have anything like we have now. And my buddy and I lived a block away from each other. But, you know, you had to be home by a certain time. So we would get home and we'd go on our computers and we'd keep chatting with each other till like 2 o'clock in the morning. But we were typing the entire time.
So it was basically like messaging system?
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't hear each other's voice?
No, and there was no internet yet. There was just the ability to log into it wasn't even the World Wide Web yet. Like it's hard to explain. You just were able to go to like chat rooms through your modem. And you were able to log into like certain companies. Like you could log into government. Like there's a great movie called War Games where this kid was doing exactly this. And he logged into a government agency, a government base, and started talking to the computer, the mainframe. And all of a sudden, you know, asked it to play a game and turned it into World War III almost. It's a really great movie. But that's what we were like. Like we were like I literally did try to log into a government after that and stuff like that just to see what I could do. But we had to be careful because if we screwed up, we would go on a watch list and all of a sudden the federal government would show up at your door. And so, you know, we didn't have the internet yet. We didn't have extreme video games online to play each other. We had to get together to do these things. And so we'd get together and do a lot of things. Like we did, I mean, I lived in the middle of nowhere where there was nothing to do at all. We joke about back in the day, like we used to go cow tipping. Sounds stupid, right? It's pretty exhilarating to knock a cow over. I don't know why. The biggest thing is because if the bull finds out you're there, it's going to chase after you. Or if the homeowner comes out with a shotgun, like there's reasons that you have to run for your life pretty fast if you're not careful. So it was adrenaline rush, but we had nothing else to do. We would go leaf bag popping.
What now?
So every fall, all the leaves drop. And back then, we would collect all of our leaves and we'd put them at the end of the drive for trash to come pick up. And so we would know what day that was going to happen, and we'd go running down the streets and jump into each, because there'd be piles of, and it's like jumping into a pile of foam. It doesn't hurt you. But they would pop and blow all over the street, and we'd drag them in. And we did a lot of, we ran from the cops a few times doing that stuff. Never got arrested. Friends of mine did. Never got caught. I was close. I was very close.
So you were the troublemaker child?
No, they were. I just was along for the ride. I was just smarter about getting away. Mm. That was one of our favorite things to do, was to go leaf bag popping. Sounds so stupid, but we had nothing else to do.
You being an artist now, you never did that growing up?
No. I doodled a little bit. I drew a lot on the side, but I took art class my freshman year of high school, and that was it. I took it in junior high. Grandma talked to school and let me take an advanced class that I wasn't ready for, but I did well. But no, my goal was computers. It was not art at all. Mm-hmm. I originally went to school for computer science to be a computer programmer and take math. And I was bored, and I was getting an A in art. It's the only reason I became an artist.
Were you good at math at least?
Yeah.
Okay, because like if you're able to
I'm known worldwide for math and concrete.
For math and concrete?
Yeah, I've written 18 articles on how to use math and concrete.
Oh.
Well, at least 15 of them are.
I thought it was just like concrete and stuff.
No. Absolutely. trying to think if there's anything else. Well, okay, so back to the Sheldon thing with the microwave. The device inside of a microwave that creates the nuclear war, the microwave, to nuke it, is called a magnetron. So we used to take those out of microwaves and play with them. And they're very dangerous, like extremely dangerous. But if you learn how to redirect it, you can mess up electronics all over the place. So one of my buddies, for example, aimed it at a cop car. They had pulled somebody over. And it was right outside of their house, so they aimed it at the cop car, and the car couldn't read how fast the person was going anymore, and they had to let them go. They couldn't even get their car to run until he turned it back off.
So what is the device?
It's called a magnetron. It's inside of a microwave. It's what causes the reaction. So another friend of mine was playing with experiments with it in his room, and he had a board up to block him from the radiation that happens from it. And his dog came up and knocked the board down and killed his dog and put him in the hospital for 2 weeks, and they didn't know what was wrong with him. And he had ionized himself. He had changed the polarity of his cells.
Okay, and then for the car thing.
This is what we did for fun.
This is like so
we didn't have
concerning.
phones. We didn't have social media. We didn't have internet. We didn't have YouTube.
This is concerning because in my free time, I write, draw, stare at a wall, and be on my phone.
Yeah.
That's my whole day. Or homework. But, like, for the car thing, if you have a car, like a cop car, and the other car is passing by, and you, like, shine whatever the thing is, like, is it a light or something?
No, it's just a frequency.
Okay. Wouldn't that also, like, turn the car off that's, like, going this way?
Oh, yeah.
So that just stopped mid, like...
Mm-hmm.
And the cop car couldn't go?
No, not until he turned it off. Couldn't get started, nothing.
Did it hurt any other cars, like, nearby?
There wasn't anything. We live in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing around us. Farmland.
Wow, okay. The next question I had was, like, college life. I don't know.
Well, I don't know how much I can talk about college life.
Why?
You're not old enough yet.
What does that meant to mean?
Yeah.
I was gonna, like, talk about, like, different colleges ideas you had and, like, what you wanted to be before you actually figure out to be an artist, which I found out was the programmer. And I was also gonna ask, like, how easy college life was, because I read, like, one of my fiction books, and it basically had most of your free time. Like, you picked classes, and they had a lot of free time that they picked, and I wondered if it was the same for you.
No, not at all. College is a lot of work, in a good way. Like, you have your weekends for the most part if you get all your work done. It just depends on what your classes are taking and how many. My problem was when I first started, I took too many classes to start with, thinking that I had it all under control. And I wanted to, like, get out of school a year early. And instead, I had such a bad GPA my first semester that it took me the next 3.5 years to make up for it. Mm-hmm. I was on probation and everything for like a year. Academic.
What's probation?
It means that if I had made another mistake academically, I was out. It was a warning. Not like mom.
And you gotta pick your classes?
You always pick your classes in college. Absolutely. I mean, you have like certain ones you have to take for whatever your major is, but the order of them is different too. So you have to take you have 100 level, 200 level, 300 level classes, and you start with the hundreds. The 300s are the ones when you're close to graduating, like your senior year classes. In between all that, you still have to take liberal arts classes. So you still have to take a class on math and a class on psychology and a class on religion and a class on the environment or something. Like, there's all sorts of classes that they require of you to take for a liberal arts degree to have like a general knowledge of things on top of what you're actually going to school for, which is good because that gave you the ability to go, oh, I really like I took a high-level philosophy class because I didn't want to take the low level, and I talked to the professor and let me take it. I had so much fun in that class that I turned that into a second major and then went back and took the classes I had to make that another major. So you never know. That's the great thing about a liberal arts school is you never know what you really are going to want to do by the time you graduate and you start to learn new things, and you never know if that's going to change, which is what happened to me, going from computer science to art. Depending on the college I went to, that may never have happened. Who knows what happened? But I dropped out because I hated computers so much at the time.
That went down the wrong pipe. So basically, mostly my question was, if you had, like, for example, you just have to take, like, a math and ELA as an example, can you pick the days?
Well, yes and no. Depends on how many are available and who all is already signed up, because you have, like, a time limit, and it's, like, first come, first serve. So sometimes you would get the class you want. Sometimes you'd have to wait till the next semester for the class you need because it's already sold out. Mm-hmm. So it's just all relative. And some of them would be like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Some would be Tuesday, Thursday. It is all relative to what you were trying to get and what you needed and timing it all.
Are you ready for the next question?
Sure.
Like, jobs growing up for you?
Jobs for me?
Yeah, like when you started doing it and then being lifeguard and then other stuff.
Well, lifeguard was the only job I had. I never did anything else until after that. That was my first job.
Well, yeah, you had the country club, so that'd definitely be your first job.
Yeah, but
like, you never worked at a shop or anything?
Not before that, no. So the thing that Grandma and Grandpa did for me, good or bad, looking back on it, I think it was good, is they said you have two options. Either you're in sports all year round or you get a job. And if you do sports, then we'll cover your expenses and things like that. Kind of gave me like a, not an income, but, an allowance, if you will, to be in sports. So of course I chose sports because then I didn't have to work. Why would I do that? And then once I was 15, I started working lifeguard in the summer when we didn't have sports. So then I was in shape all year round for my sports. It was all about sports. It didn't matter. Nothing was about work ever for me. It was about getting a beautiful suntan and watching kids swim and teaching them how to swim. It was easy. So, no, I took the easy route. Nothing like Mom. That's a question for her. She's the one that had all the different jobs and worked her butt off for anything and helped the family. And I was spoiled. I didn't have to do anything.
We all know you're spoiled.
Thanks.
So
it wasn't until once I graduated college. Well, okay. One other job I had while I was in college was I worked at a pet store, Pet Supplies Plus. And that was fun. I enjoyed it. It was difficult sometimes, but a lot of always stocking shelves and helping people with their lizards and selling fish all the time and trying out all the dog biscuits.
You ate them?
Oh yeah. We had nothing else to do. We had a lot of boring time. But it was a fun job. I ended up utilizing that knowledge. Well, first of all, the aquarium we have downstairs because everything I learned while I was there. But I went to when I went to grad school in Savannah, I ended up working at a pet store temporarily there. But that place was completely different. It was a mom and pop, and they were rude to me, and I couldn't handle it. And I was spoiled, so I was kind of a brat. So I kind of just ran away. But what was I going to say? And then when I graduated college, and I was waiting to go to grad school, I had to have a job. And at that point, I'm trying to think of why I didn't lifeguard. I think I had stopped lifeguarding the year before because that's what it was. I stopped lifeguarding at like 20 or 21, maybe 20, I think. And I think so the next summer I had worked at the pet store instead and stayed up at college. And then when I graduated college and I had to move home, I needed a job for that summer. And I went and worked for an electrician friend of Grandpa's and learned all about commercial electrical, which was awesome. I learned a ton that I still know to this day. It was a very smart move by Grandpa to teach me a skill, just in case. It's one of those things you have to know. It's one thing to go to college and get a degree, but what are you going to do with that degree? And specifically when you go to school for a degree that has no job like art, what are you going to do with that? So Grandpa was kind of smart at getting me a skill when it came to a trade, just in case. And I actually thought that I was going to be an electrician for a while after that as my income while I created my art career. But when I moved to Savannah, I ended up going a different direction, I guess, with everything I was doing there. But it was cool. And then I also, while I was in college, I forgot about this. Another job I had in college was actually working with your mom. We were in the recycling team together.
Oh, I remember that.
So one of the things about my college tuition was they gave me so much money, but I had to work at the college to earn it. And so we could get these different jobs at the college. So over the summer, was it the summer? Yeah, maybe. Well, I do all sorts of things at the college. I would do everything from like landscaping to the recycling to whatever they needed done. We would just be part of the maintenance squad, basically. We turned the recycling into our own thing from that they allowed us to do as our job. And we were pretty passionate about it, actually. There was four or five of us, and we took it pretty serious. But that was really cool because then the great thing about it was we had to take everything to the recycling facility, which was like a 30-minute drive away. So they would give us their, really old company truck, college truck, and we would fill it up with recycling and we would drive it there. And they didn't really care what we were doing. So, like mom, I would talk mom into coming with me when we were both working, and we would disappear for like 2 hours. Take her to the lake, showed her how to skip rocks, So there was all these ways to kind of like manipulate getting paid to work at the college, but it was great. We got a lot of stuff done. We helped out a little bit, and I learned a lot of little things about landscaping and all sorts of stuff that still used to this day. So it was all beneficial. So there's little things like that we did, but it was nothing like any like serious job. I don't even think working in a pet store is really a serious job. It's pretty easy.
And when you're at college, how would you pay for like a breakfast if you went to like one of the coffee shops? Did you just have like a credit there?
Mm-hmm.
Or did you actually like work during college and be like, hey, here's the money I just got this week?
Well, we would have it on a card. There was a college card. Like we had an account that your parents can put money into. And then that way you wouldn't go to, for example, once you turn 21, I couldn't go to a bar with that card. It had to be campus based. So your parents could give you money for you to survive on or to buy books with, but you couldn't use it for things like I couldn't go grocery shopping. Couldn't go to the mall and buy myself a pair of shoes. Nothing like that. It was for the college only. So it was kind of cool. It was like a credit card for the college.
Growing up, how important were like your classes and grades? I don't know if we already touched on that.
No, I was terrible about all that.
Yeah, because I know Mom was a smarter person.
Well, no, she was just more dedicated. My world was about sports, not about my grades. I had to make sure that my grades were high enough to be able to be in sports. That's about as much as I tried for. So because I focused on sports all the time.
What was your average then, like for each class?
I don't know.
Like C's?
B's and C's, yeah.
Okay. And then you brought up like taking apart and putting together stuff, and that just like made me think about what we were talking about in science recently, and that's like the cells. And so that I kind of wrote that down. I don't know if we're really going to talk about that much.
I'm not quite sure I understand where you're going with that.
I don't either.
Because you can't take cells apart and put them back together. We're not Frankenstein.
Well, yeah, no, I just mean like we've been talking about like the different parts of cells.
Yeah, which is this is why you need to get Mom on here.
Your pool league.
Yeah.
We tried finding like a kid pool league. What happened to that again?
They don't exist anymore. They canceled them.
That's mean.
I know.
For your pool leagues, you got the thingamabob, no limits.
Division champion.
Yeah. So are you going to Vegas or did you miss out?
Not yet. We lost at both of our tournaments. We have 3 tournaments a year to get into the regional one, if you want to call it that. We call it cities, but you have 3 chances to get to that regional championship, and then if you win, you go to Vegas. So we lost our first chance. We have 2 more chances to get in.
Okay. And then for the champions team.
Well, the captain's team, that was new last year for me. I still don't know. I don't know when that happens. That happens in early next year. and I have to figure out what team I'm going to put together for that.
You could have put the team together?
Yeah, we did.
I thought the captains was like you joined one with captains only.
That's what I'm saying. It's a special team of captains, but we all had to like talk to each other and agree to do this together.
Oh, okay.
There's like what they do is they send out on social media. They'll send out a notice and saying all of these people, and they'll have a list of like 40 or 60 people or 80, whatever it is. All these people are captains eligible for the captain's tournament, and they tell you, their name and then their skill level, because we had to be careful of our skill levels. Like we can't just have like a bunch of the best, a bunch of 8s. You can only have 15 points between 3 people. So you can only do like a 4, 5, 6 or 3 5s or, stuff like that. So you had to be clever about how to put together that number. And like we did it where I was a 4, so we could do a 4, 5, 6, but then I accidentally went to a 5. So no, that 6 could not play. So when we went to Vegas, the 6 was just the coach. He couldn't play at all.
Aww.
I know I felt bad, but because it was my fault, of course.
The next thing I was going to talk about was Las Vegas, and I spelt it wrong. That's fun.
Las Vegas?
No, it's
Las Leagues?
Las Vagus.
Vigos?
That's weird.
What about Vegas?
Like every year you go there, and like what do you do there? Because I know you did the Rock Hall of Fame thing. You went to like several concerts last minute.
Rock Hall of Fame.
Didn't you go there?
Well, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's in Cleveland, Ohio. I did that on a different conference.
Oh, I thought I saw pictures of it when you were like in Las Vegas. Okay, well,
I went to a concert.
I know you went to several concerts and did the like Rage Room. So like every time you go there, like what are the new things you look
Rage
forward?
Room? You mean the rec room? Where I guess I was raging out, but breaking stuff. Yeah, that was pretty cool. We're talking about if we want to do that. So you're just talking about all my trips to Vegas, not my pool trips to Vegas, is what you're saying, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what was the question again? Uh-huh. Pause for dramatic effect. She's eating some stupid thing that she shouldn't be eating in the middle of an interview.
Hey, it's not an interview. It's just talking.
Sure sounds like an interview.
It's more like I'm interviewing you, to be honest.
I know.
But like every trip to Las Vegas, what are things you look forward to? What are things you plan? And then like what have you done before?
Okay. When I go for World of Concrete, which is a business trip, my favorite part of all of it is to see all of my friends and network and just party. When I say party, I don't mean like drink heavily or anything like that. I mean just getting together to all hours of the night and doing different things at different places in Vegas because there's so much to do there. So I have a lot of fun just networking and meeting new people and building the reputation that I've built for over a decade. So it's my favorite. It's a lot of fun because I've gotten to a point of like, people know who I am when I walk down the street kind of thing. And I've had moments where some of my friends have been with me that are kind of new to World of Concrete, and they'll be like, I can't go anywhere without getting stopped by somebody. Every hotel I go to, or sometimes literally just walking down the street, that they're there for that show. It's not like everybody in the world knows me. It is in that industry. There's 70,000 people that show up to this event. 50,000 of them probably know who I am. So it doesn't matter where I go, someone's going to be like, "Hey, Rick," and come over and say hi to me and stuff like that. So it's a lot of fun because I feel like all the work I've done to build that status is I get to see it, I get to feel it, I get to experience it. And that's my favorite part of it, is kind of the ego trip of the notoriety I've created and making sure that I stay relevant. It's one of the hardest things as you get older is to stay relevant in whatever industry you're in. And I'm working hard at trying to do that. Like this podcast thing is a part of it too, for what I'm doing for the industry with those interviews and stuff like that. The thing I'm doing next week for Epoxy Floor Wars, those kind of things are keeping me relevant and keeping my name out there and keeping that reputation And that's really what it's all about for me when it comes to all that. Outside of that, it's how cool of an experience you can have in Vegas while you're doing that. From riding razors in the desert to the rec room, that was a blast. Destroying things for half an hour. You never know. There's so many parties that people schedule, and like one time we had a party at Top Golf where it's just a driving range, but there's like 4 levels, so you're like up on the top level shooting away off into the distance while we're having a big party with like hundreds of people. And they had like those picture books are in my office, but remember those little picture books, like having those kind of parties and doing that kind of stuff with a big group of people was pretty awesome. You don't get to do that anywhere else. They have a Top Golf here, but you don't have a party like that while you're at Top Golf. The same company used to have a party at a suite in the Hard Rock Hotel, and on the top floor, and it had a pool table in it and a bowling alley in the suite. It was a 2-bedroom suite, but it was so big that it still had a little bowling alley in it. And so we would go to this party, and it was so much fun. And I was like one of the celebrities that was there at the time from the guy that was putting it together that knew me really well. Kind of helped me build my reputation in the industry, actually. And so, for example, I'd be playing people in pool from all over the world, especially the Europeans. Where are they from? Poland? I'm trying to remember. I don't think they were German. There might have been some Germans, but they were Scandinavians. Maybe they were Scandinavians. But man, they loved to play pool and they hated losing. And I beat them every single time. And I struggled to beat them because I wasn't as good back then as I am now. But to create that center of attention around a pool table while you're in the middle of this random party was a blast. And then you have that sense of notoriety that's happening because of it, and these people don't forget about you. So those kind of things are what make these trips amazing for me. And I get to go everywhere. I have my favorite bar to take people to, and I started out taking, 1 person, 2 people, 5 people. Now I've got 50 people planning on going. I think last year 25, 30 of them showed up. Some of them were in that area but couldn't make it because I got there too late and stuff like that. Those kind of things are pretty amazing to me. Going there for the pool tournament, none of that. I'm there with 5 people, 8 people. Nobody knows me. No one's looking to walk in and say hi to me. It's completely different. So to go to Vegas just to go is fun, but then it's a very expensive thing to do. When you have someone paying the bill because all these people are sponsoring you or paying for you to be there and all that kind of stuff, it's an amazing experience to be in Vegas. To go there on your own, it's very expensive to do all these things. Like I couldn't do half the things I've done. I think to go ride the razors out in the desert is like $500 a person for 4 hours. To go to Top Golf is like $100 for like 10 minutes. Things are very expensive. I go to a restaurant where it's $350 a person. Can't do that here. Can't do that without someone funding it. I don't do that well. I'm not going to throw $350 a person for dinner. It's not worth it. But it is. It's the greatest Japanese food I've ever had in my life. So Vegas is a really unique place because there's so much to it. It's never ending.
For work, when you go to like Vegas and everyone knows you, was it hard to like build up your image for others? Or
Absolutely. Not only just building the image, but then I took it creatively, and for a long time, and still to this day, people make fun of my outfits. There's a few of them that don't get it, and even in the company I work with, that are just like, why do we let him do this? And why not? Like I'm not doing anything offensive. I'm not doing anything negative. I'm making sure that people notice me, and they do, and it has worked. But it took years. I remember one of my conferences I went to, a guy came up to me and was like, "Is it Halloween this week?" Like, what? Like, why would you say that? Whereas for years now at the same conference, every time someone knows, like someone that doesn't know how to talk to me, because some people are terrible at communicating, Some people are good. Some people are not good at networking at all, and they try, but they're just not very good at it. And some of those people don't know how to start a conversation. The biggest issue is to walk up to someone and start a random conversation on nothing when you don't know anything about them. You have nowhere to go. So if I wore a clever shirt, I would walk up to him and be like, let me tell you about why I'm wearing this shirt today. And it would give them something to listen to, something to talk about, something to remember. At first, it was a joke to them. Like, okay, whatever, sure. But then over the years, it started to become, hey, man, so what's the story on this one? And it gave them that initial, hey, I know how to say something to you now. I can at least come up to you and say hi to you and start talking to you. Even if I don't understand anything about your world and I don't have anything in common with you whatsoever, I can at least go, so tell me why you wore this one this time. And I always had a story every single day, every single conference. I always have a story. It's a simple thing like that. The fedoras. Everybody loves my hats. I mean, it's been a huge thing. Like, I am the fedora wearing guy of the entire industry. And there has been a couple other people that wear cool hats too, but not consistent and are not out there in the masses constantly, like showing up to everything, being, everybody knows how to find me because I look for the hat. Now lately the beard has started to do that. Like, people are noticing my beard more than my fedora for some reason. I don't get why. I don't know what the difference is between my beard to everybody else that has a beard, but I just had that the other day where the guy was on the phone with me, who's one of the captains for the show next week. And he was like, oh yeah, you're the guy with that really, like the really well kept beard. And I'm like, sure, but it's that branding that you create for yourself. And some people don't understand that. Some people don't care. Some people want to dress up all the time. Some people want to wear a hoodie all the time. One of my friends that I'm working with next week, he considers himself a graffiti artist of concrete. So he dresses like a graffiti artist. I don't think that that's successful. I don't think that the industry is going to really care about that. I think it makes him look sloppy. But that's his choice. And he's created a pretty good reputation. He's a positive role model in the industry. But I think he could do even better. But that's for him to decide. I don't need to change that for him. I think the way I've chose was very smart and I thought it was very professional for most of it, because I'm always clean cut and I'm always bright. The brightest shoes in the room, the brightest hat in the room, the only hat in the room 99% of the time. But people recognize it, and it worked.
I also know you go to school with baseball caps.
School?
Work.
Well, I have to wear a hat all the time because I don't have any hair left. So, baseball hat's another thing. That's when I feel like I'm incognito. Here's a good story for you. This has happened multiple times. But I think it was 2 years ago, maybe last year, early last year, whichever. I was teaching a class, and some of the students came the day before to help us do all the prep work and learn how to prep. And I was wearing a baseball hat. And the one dude finally was like, man, you sound really familiar and look really familiar, but I can't put my finger on it. And I introduced myself again, and he's like, don't you normally wear like a fedora or something? And I'm like, yeah, I'll wear that tomorrow. And it really, he just kind of stared at me like, I can't put two and two together. And then the next day when I came in, he's like, there he is. Okay, now I recognize you. It's like literally like Superman and Clark Kent. I'm Clark Kent with the baseball hat, and I'm Superman with the fedora on. As funny as that is. But it goes back to that branding, and it made it that big of a difference that people would not recognize me. I'm just another guy with a beard with a baseball hat on, which is kind of cool because when I travel by plane and I go to these conferences, the first day I'll travel incognito, and you'd be surprised how many people don't even recognize me when I'm like, hey man, how you doing? Like, I'll say it like, hey Joe, how you doing? And they'll be like, who was that? So it's pretty funny how it works.
So growing up and now, what are your book interests? Because I remember a while ago you had a
book interest. I don't have a book interest.
Well, I remember a while ago you had a book on your desk that had a guy on it, and I know you also did poems for a while. So I'm like,
well, poems are completely different than reading a book. Yeah, you're talking about Dave Grohl's storyteller book, which I still haven't finished. It's still in my backpack, and I should be reading it when I travel, but I tend to watch a movie instead. Most of my reading is just reading the news. But yeah, I haven't written poetry in a while. I'd like to get back to that, but we'll see. Right now, I'm more about getting into the studio, which I need to try to do this weekend since I have a couple more days.
So we found the 90s things on Disney Plus. It's like the Y2K, Beanie Babies, 90s TV shows,
Yeah.
all that stuff. And so I had brought up like I wrote down 90s TV shows. So I get like question like your favorite 90s TV show. And the ones we saw, like if they were that good to you or if it was like, oh, I saw it online, I watched it, and that was it.
No,
And then also like we can just talk about the 90s in general.
my favorite TV show of the 90s was Spider-Man. Cartoon.
I was about to be like, that's a movie.
No, it was a cartoon at the time. That's what I watched all the time. And then when the movie came out, but the new movie didn't come out until, what's it say over there on the left one? 2002. Is that what it say, or it said 2000?
Well,
On the left one, it says, go for the ultimate spin, 3 May 2000, at the bottom of it.
can't see with the lighting.
I think it's 2002.
I have no clue.
So, no, that all didn't happen until the 2000s. So the 90s, well, I don't know how much I watched TV in the 90s. I can't really think of something off the top of my head. I guess if you gave me the TV shows that were going on, I'd tell you how much I liked them. But I don't know, I didn't watch a lot of TV in the 90s. I was really having fun in school and getting out and talking to people because, I don't like to talk very much.
So like, was the Friends filmed in 90s?
I thought you were going to ask me that. I think so.
And then also we heard about like the Beverly Hills show, 911. No,
90210.
there you go.
That's the late 80s, though, and the 90s. So I watched that a little bit in high school, but that's late 80s.
Okay.
By the 90s, I could care less about it.
And then what was the last one we saw that had to do with like the kids without the parents and like the buried dead?
Oh, Party of Five. Yeah, I watched that one. I did watch every episode of that one. I don't know why. It was so depressing. I never understood why I was obsessed with it, but it was very popular for being so depressing.
So remember when I had to read The Outsiders?
Yes.
The movie looked like it was filmed before 2000. Was it
Oh, yeah.
actually?
It was in the 80s.
Okay, I was about to ask about that and if you liked that because you said you had watched it before.
Oh, no, it's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Oh.
It was fantastic. That and like Stand By Me, Red Dawn. There was a series of movies that were really awesome, and then they had all the movies from the Brat Pack, like 16 Candles and Pretty in Pink and The Breakfast Club. All of that was happening at the same time. All these movies were coming out. That the 80s were, I think the 80s had probably some of the best written movies, probably still to this day. And they don't take that kind of style serious anymore because they want to make too much money. It's all about the money now. It's not about the art. And the art brings the money. Some of these movies did okay in the box office, but then sold forever afterward. And they make their money on the long term. People want a quick turnaround. They want their money now. They don't want to think, well, what if we make 5 times more over the next 20 years compared to half of, doubling what our money was right now. They don't look at it that way. They're like, no, we need the money now. It's all about now. The investment is now. So there's too much riding on it now. It's kind of nice, like Netflix, for example, is doing more of that 80s style now where they're having the freedom to do something more clever because it's not costing as much. And they're not worried about how much money they make off of it. They want to keep subscriptions instead. So what Netflix has really has allowed that kind of style and that generational thing to come back again. Like Adam Sandler has made tons of movies on Netflix, and they're all okay, but they're low budget, and they're fun, and there's nothing super over the top theatrical. No, not a ton of animation. You know, they're really fun movies, but they're successful because they don't cost a lot.
Next question would technically be like the shows we saw of the 90s of like the Beanie Babies, Y2K. You looked up one that I think was. I wasn't paying much attention to it, bro. But it had to do like everything about the 90s, and you're like, you won't expect half the stuff on here. But before that, I have a question, because you said Adam Sandler like made a lot of movies on Netflix, and my question would be off like either Netflix or anywhere. You can't really tell what your favorite movie is, and I've heard that several times. But like, what are some of your favorite actors because of their movies and how they like work? Or like how they perform in movies.
It's a tough one. I don't know. I mean, like Jim Carrey was one of my favorites for a long time because he's such a physical actor. I like a lot of physical comedy, like Steve Martin and Jim Carrey, and the guys that were physical comedian actors were the best to me. Chris Farley, like those kind of movies, John Candy, I like more of the comedy stuff. I'm much more on the comedy side. It's tough to say outside of that because there's so many. I mean, like Brad Pitt's I think he's an amazing actor. Even though a lot of people don't give him credit because he's just has very good looking, and there's always that. Sometimes it's if they look too good, that means they're not a very good actor, and maybe he's not, but he's taken the roles on so many different levels and so many different ways of acting and different characters that in the beginning it looked like he was just because of his looks. But then when you look at a retrospective of all the work he's done amazing work and been in amazing movies and had completely different roles and did very well in all of them. So I look at it the other way and go, I got to give that guy a lot of credit. I think he's a fantastic actor because he's done amazing roles, really has. So, a lot of people laugh at me when I bring that up, but I think he's done his job and he's done it very well. So Leonardo DiCaprio, another great actor. He's amazing. Same person, same thing, like really good looking, but has done so many different characters that you can't deny how amazing he really is as an actor.